The lawyer's office smelled like old books and expensive leather. I sat across from Gerald Pemberton III, a man whose reading glasses cost more than my car payment, watching him shuffle through documents that would apparently change my life. "Miss Chen, I understand this must come as quite a shock," he said, peering at me over those ridiculous spectacles. "Your great-uncle Marcus was, well, he was quite the character." I barely remembered Uncle Marcus, a distant figure at family gatherings, always wearing flannel and smelling faintly of pine trees. He'd lived somewhere out in the countryside, and we'd exchanged maybe 3 conversations in my entire 32 years. He left me something? I asked, still confused about why I'd been summoned here on a Tuesday morning. Gerald smiled, the kind of smile lawyers give when they know something you don't. "He left you everything. 1,300 acres in Riverside County, including the mineral rights, water rights, and..." He paused dramatically. "The ground lease agreements for an entire residential development." My brain stuttered. "I'm sorry, what?" "Your great-uncle owned the land. All of it. The Riverside Meadows development. All 230 homes. They're built on property he leased to the developer 40 years ago. The homes belong to the residents, but the land..." He tapped the document. "The land is yours." I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. "Wait, so these people pay a monthly ground lease fee. It's written into their property deeds. They're aware of it, though I suspect many of them hope your uncle would simply forget about it. He was 93. After all, he hadn't raised a rate in over 20 years. I picked up the paper. He slid across the mahogany desk. "The monthly fee per household, $350. "That seems reasonable," I said. Gerald's smile turned sharp. "By 1995 standards, perhaps. Comparable ground leases in the area are running $900 to $1,200 per month. Your uncle was essentially giving them a sweetheart deal." The math hit me then. 230 homes times $350. That was over $80,000 a month, nearly $1 million a year. And I've been eating ramen for dinner 3 nights a week. "There's one more thing," Gerald added. "The Riverside Meadows Homeowners Association has been, let's say, difficult about the arrangement. They've tried to purchase the land multiple times at significantly below market value. Your uncle always refused. In fact, his instructions were very specific." He pulled out another document. "He wanted you to know exactly who you'd be dealing with." What followed was a litany of complaints Uncle Marcus had documented. The HOA had tried to restrict his access to his own property. They'd filed nuisance lawsuits claiming his monthly inspections of perimeter were disturbing the peace. They'd attempted to pass local ordinances that would have essentially trapped his land in regulatory concrete. The HOA president, a woman named Patricia Vanderbilt, had apparently told Uncle Marcus at a county meeting that he was a relic who didn't understand modern community standards. I felt something warm kindle in my chest. Uncle Marcus might have been a distant relative, but he'd been my relative, and he'd been bullied. "When can I visit the property?" I asked. Riverside Meadows was exactly what I expected. Cookie-cutter houses in beige and gray, manicured lawns that looked spray-painted green, and a massive stone entrance with gold lettering. I drove my 10-year-old Honda through those gates feeling distinctly out of place. The HOA office was in the community center, a building that looked like it cost more than most actual civic centers. I walked in wearing jeans and a sweater, my documentation folder under my arm. The receptionist looked up with a practiced smile that froze when she saw me. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Patricia Vanderbilt. I'm Mei Chen, the new owner of the ground lease." The smile vanished entirely. "One moment." I waited exactly 14 minutes. I counted, before being ushered into an office that was all glass and chrome. Patricia Vanderbilt stood behind her desk, like a general surveying a battlefield. She was maybe 60, with the kind of severe blonde bob that screamed, "Let me speak to your manager," and a pantsuit that probably cost 3 months of that ground lease payment. "Ms. Chun," she said, not offering her hand. "We heard Marcus passed. Our condolences." "Thank you. I assume you're here to discuss the sale of the property. We're prepared to offer." "I'm not selling." Patricia's perfectly microbladed eyebrows rose a fraction. "I see. Then perhaps we can discuss a long-term lease arrangement that would be mutually beneficial. We'd be willing to. I'm not negotiating a new lease either. I interrupted, enjoying this more than I probably should. The current lease agreement is fine. However, I will be exercising the rate adjustment clause. Her face went very still. What clause? I opened my folder and pulled out the relevant page, sliding it across her pristine desk. Section 12, paragraph 4. The lease allows for rate adjustments to match regional market standards with 90 days notice. Current market rate for comparable ground leases is $900 to $1,200 per month. I'm setting the new rate at $900, effective in 90 days. Patricia's composure cracked. That's nearly triple what we're paying now. It's what you should have been paying for the last decade. I replied calmly. My uncle subsidized this community for 20 years. That subsidy is ending. This is outrageous. We'll fight this. We'll fight what exactly? I leaned forward. A legal contract that your residents sign when they purchase their homes? A rate adjustment clause that's been in the agreement since day one? Please, feel free to consult your lawyers. I've already consulted mine. Patricia stood abruptly. You have no idea what you're doing. This community has standards. We built something special here, and we won't let some, she looked me up and down, outsider come in and destroy it for profit. The barely concealed disdain in her voice, that particular tone that said I didn't belong in her pristine, wealthy, predominantly white community, made my decision crystallize into diamond-hard certainty. I'm not the outsider here, Mrs. Vanderbilt. You are. Every single house in this development sits on my land. Land my family has owned for 3 generations. You want to talk about standards? Let's talk about how your HOA tried to bully a 93-year-old man out of his property rights. How you filed frivolous lawsuits and tried to paint him as a nuisance for daring to walk his own land. I stood up, gathering my papers. The rate increase stands. You have 90 days to inform your residents. Oh, and one more thing. I'll be conducting quarterly inspections of the property, as is my right under the lease. I trust the HOA won't try to restrict my access, as that would constitute a material breach of contract. Patricia's face had gone from pink to red to an alarming shade of purple. Get out. Gladly. I'll see myself out. The next 90 days were chaos. The HOA held emergency meetings. Residents flooded local news stations with complaints about predatory landowners. Patricia Vanderbilt went on record calling me a vulture capitalist who was attacking hard-working families. What they didn't mention in their interviews was that hard-working families in Riverside Meadows had a median household income of $350,000, that the average home value was $1.2 million, that many residents owned second properties. My lawyer, Gerald, called weekly with updates. They're trying to organize a class action lawsuit. It won't go anywhere, the contract is airtight, but they're definitely trying. I also started receiving letters. Some were angry. Many were threatening. A few were from residents who weren't part of the HOA's inner circle, apologizing for behavior, and asking if payment plans were available. Those, I responded personally. The day before the rate increase took effect, I drove back to Riverside Meadows. This time, I didn't go to the HOA office. I went to Community Park, technically my land, and sat on a bench overlooking the artificial lake. An older man sat down next to me, breathing hard from his walk. You're her, aren't you? The owner? I tensed, but he smiled. Don't worry, I'm not here to yell at you. Name's Robert. I've lived here 15 years. He was quiet for a moment. I knew your uncle, actually. Met him a few times when he'd come through. Good man. Fair man. Thank you, I said softly. Patricia's been telling everyone you're some kind of monster. But between you and me, he leaned in conspiratorially. This HOA needed a reality check. The way they treated Marcus toward the end wasn't right. And $900 a month? Hell, we spend more than that on our landscaping service. As he walked away, I felt something settle in my chest. Not everyone here was Patricia Vanderbilt. Most were just people living their lives. And yes, the increase would impact them, but it was fair. It was legal. And after years of working 3 jobs to make rent in a cramped apartment, watching wealthy people complain about paying market rate felt less like cruelty and more like justice. 6 months later, the dust had settled. Most residents paid the new rate without further complaint. A few sold their homes, Patricia Vanderbilt among them. The house sold for $1.4 million. She'd be fine. I used part of the income to establish a hardship fund for residents who genuinely struggled with the increase. The rest went into a trust, managed carefully, allowing me to finally breathe financially for the first time in my adult life. I also bought a small cabin on the northern edge of the property, in the actual wilderness Uncle Marcus had loved. I visit every weekend, walking the land that's now mine, understanding why he fought so hard to keep it. Some might call what I did petty or greedy or wrong, but every time I sit on my porch and look out over those 1,300 acres, land my family protected for generations, I think about Uncle Marcus standing up to bullies in $1,000 suits, and I know I made the right choice. The land remembers, and so do I.